Freedom is exactly what we need, Jiwoo replied. The Harbingers expect your ships to follow centralized commands. When those commands can't reach your fleet, your ships usually continue their last orders, making them predictable. And our ships will do what instead? Whatever makes sense in the moment, said Jiwoo with a small smile. That's the beauty of it. Even I don't know exactly what they'll do. The fleet jumped into the Proxima system at 6 different points simultaneously. The first surprise for the Harbingers, who expected the Confederation's usual approach of a single concentrated entry point. The enemy ships scrambled to reposition. They're confused, reported Do-hyun from the lead battleship. Their formation is breaking up as they try to address multiple threats. Begin Phase 2, ordered Tae-ho. The Confederation ships moved according to Jiwoo's strategy of controlled unpredictability. Some ships accelerated rapidly, while others cut power and drifted. Some fired from maximum range, while others held fire completely. To an outside observer, it looked like chaos, but each movement was part of a plan designed to keep the enemy constantly guessing. The Harbingers responded by targeting the Confederation flagship, concentrating their fire in an attempt to disrupt command. Just as they closed in, the flagship suddenly went dark, shutting down all systems except life support. They're using our tactic, Jiwoo said with approval. As the Harbingers adjusted their targeting, 10 Confederation ships that had been hanging back suddenly accelerated into the gap, firing from multiple angles. 3 Harbinger vessels exploded in quick succession. Then the Harbingers deployed their secret weapon, a massive energy pulse that disabled communications across the battlefield. In previous battles, this had been devastating to the Confederation, forces who could no longer receive orders from Central Command. But this time, instead of freezing in place or continuing their last orders, the Confederation ships acted independently. Some grouped into small tactical units. Others launched surprise attacks from unexpected vectors. One commander even ordered his damaged ship to vent plasma, creating a cloud that hid 3 other vessels as they moved into firing position. In the command center, Tae-ho and Jiwoo could only watch, unable to communicate with their fleet. This is the moment of truth, Jiwoo said quietly. Will your commanders remember their training when no one is giving them orders? The answer came as the battle unfolded on their screens. Without central coordination, the Confederation ships were fighting in ways the Harbingers couldn't predict. Some used tactics practiced in training, while others improvised entirely new approaches. A small group of fast attack ships executed a maneuver Sunho had taught them, using the gravity of a nearby moon to slingshot behind the Harbinger fleet. Another commander remembered Yuna's lesson about feigning weakness, shutting down weapon systems to appear disabled before suddenly powering up and catching 3 enemy ships by surprise. After 4 hours of intense fighting, the Harbinger fleet began to retreat. Their coordinated attack patterns had fallen apart against the unpredictable Confederation response. They're running, someone shouted in the command center. Not just running, said Jiwoo, pointing to the tactical display. Look at their formation. It's completely broken. They don't know how to respond to an enemy they can't predict. As communications were restored, reports flooded in from across the battlefield. The Confederation had lost 37 ships, a significant number, but far fewer than in previous engagements of this size. The Harbingers had lost over 80 vessels and were in full retreat. 2 days later, the full Confederation Council gathered for a formal ceremony. Jiwoo and her team stood before them as Admiral Tae-ho read the official declaration. For introducing it, innovative tactical thinking that led to our victory over the Void Harbingers, humanity is formally recognized as a valuable ally of the Galactic Confederation. Councillor Hyori stepped forward. We once viewed your unpredictability as a potential threat to our orderly society. We now recognize it as your greatest gift, and perhaps the key to our continued survival in an unpredictable universe. After the ceremony, Tae-ho found Jiwoo at the observation deck, looking out at the stars. What will you do now? He asked. Return to Earth. Eventually, she said. But first, I'd like to explore some of those worlds out there, the unpredictable ones especially. Tae-ho nodded. I thought you might say that. The Confederation has much to learn from humans still. Perhaps I could accompany you on your explorations? Jiwoo smiled. I'd like that. After all, too unpredictable. Species together? Who knows what we might discover? Indeed, said Taiho. Who could possibly predict? Not an accident, said Admiral Taiho, stepping forward to stand beside Jiwoo. A different approach, one the Harbingers could not anticipate. The head counselor, an elderly female named Hiyori, raised her hand for silence. The fact remains that our standard tactics are failing against the Harbingers. They have studied our patterns for too long. We must consider alternatives. What exactly are you proposing, Captain Jiwoo? Asked Counselor Minho, the youngest of the seven. Jiwoo activated a small device she had brought. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing ships moving in unusual patterns. I propose a joint military operation, she said. Human tactical advisors embedded with your forces, teaching them to fight unpredictably. Impossible, snapped Jinky. Our commanders train for decades to perfect our battle formations. That's exactly the problem, Do-hyun interjected. Your perfect formations have become perfectly predictable. The council chamber erupted again until Hiyori called for order. Explain your concept in detail, she instructed Jiwoo. Jiwoo nodded and expanded the holographic display. The Harbingers expect your ships to follow logical patterns based on efficiency, resource conservation, and minimal risk. We will teach your commanders to make decisions the Harbingers cannot predict, changing directions without apparent reason, feigning weakness to set up ambushes, using risky but unexpected approaches. You want us to abandon logic? Asked Minho, looking troubled. No, Jiwoo said. We want you to supplement logic with human concepts like intuition and creative thinking. The council debated among themselves for nearly an hour while the humans waited. Finally, Hiyori spoke for them all. We will authorize a probationary program, she said. Human advisors may work with 3 battle groups. If the results are positive, we will expand the program. If not, she left the consequence unstated. The next day, Jiwoo met with her team to assign them to different battle groups. Sunho, their physicist, looked nervous. I'm not a military tactician, he protested. What can I possibly teach Confederation commanders about fighting? You don't need to be a tactical expert, Jiwoo assured him. You just need to help them think like a human. Be creative. Follow hunches, try unexpected approaches. Do-hyun would lead the training for the primary battle group, while Jiwoo coordinated the overall program from Unity Station with Admiral Taiho. The training began immediately. In simulation rooms across the station, humans worked with Confederation officers who had centuries of experience in space combat but had never considered fighting anyway except by the book. But why would we turn left when right is clearly more efficient? Asked Commander Junho during Do-hyun's first session. Because the enemy expects you to turn right, Do-hyun explained patiently. Sometimes the best move isn't the most logical one, it's the one your opponent doesn't see coming. In another training room, Yuna was trying to explain the concept of a gut feeling to skeptical alien officers. Sometimes you sense something is wrong before you can explain why, she said. It's not magic. It's your mind processing information faster than your conscious thoughts. This is not how decisions should be made, protested one officer. Maybe not for everyday operations, Yunha agreed, but in battle against an enemy who knows your every move, it might be exactly what you need. After 2 weeks of training, the 3 battle groups were deployed to defend a supply line that the Harbingers had been attacking regularly. Jiwoo and Taiho watched from the command center as the operation unfolded. At first, the Confederation ships moved in their usual formations, and the Harbingers began their standard attack pattern. Then, without warning, 2 Confederation vessels broke formation and accelerated directly toward the enemy line. What are they doing? Gasped a controller. Creating confusion, Jiwoo said with a smile. The unexpected move forced the Harbingers to split their attention. When they adjusted to deal with the 2 approaching ships, the main Confederation fleet attacked from an angle the Harbingers had left exposed. The battle ended in just 40 minutes, the fastest victory against the Harbingers since the conflict began. As reports came in from the other battle groups with similar results, Admiral Taiho turned to Jiwoo. It seems your unpredictability has merit after all, he said. This is just the beginning, Jiwoo replied. The more we teach your people to think outside their patterns, the harder it will be for the Harbingers to anticipate them. That evening, the Council voted unanimously to expand the human training program to all Confederation forces. "Perhaps," said Councillor Hayori to Jiwoo after the vote, "what we once saw as your greatest weakness may prove to be your greatest strength." The command center of Unity Station had transformed over the past month. What once was a space of rigid order now buzzed with energy as humans and Confederation officers worked side by side. Tactical displays showed the positions of both fleets near Proxima Centauri, where intelligence suggested the Harbingers had established their main base. Jiwoo stood beside Admiral Taiho, studying the holographic map that hovered between them. This would be the largest battle yet, over 200 Confederation ships against an estimated 150 Harbinger vessels. "Are the battle groups ready?" Taiho asked. Jiwoo nodded. "As ready as they'll ever be. Each commander has been trained in unpredictable tactics, but they know to trust their own judgment if communications are cut." "The Council is concerned about giving commanders that much freedom," Taiho admitted. In a cultural exchange between two Confederation species, red lights flashed throughout Unity Station, and announcement systems repeated the same message in 7 different languages. "What's happening?" she asked a passing station officer. "The Void Harbingers," the officer replied, hurrying past. "They've attacked 3 outer colonies simultaneously." Jiwoo gathered her team and found Admiral Taiho in the main command center. Massive screens showed battles happening across different star systems. Ships with sharp angular designs fired upon Confederation vessels and orbital stations. "Who are they?" Dohyun asked, watching as a Confederation defense platform exploded into fragments. "The Harbingers appeared at the edge of our space 2 years ago," Taiho explained, his voice tight with tension. "They reject all communication attempts. They only attack, retreat, then attack again." Jiwoo watched the tactical displays. The Confederation ships moved in perfect formation, executing textbook defensive maneuvers. But the Harbinger vessels seemed to anticipate every move, countering each strategy effectively. "Your ships are losing," she observed. "We are following standard defense protocols," said one of the Confederation commanders. "We will adapt." "No, you won't," interrupted Do-hyun. "Look at the pattern. They know exactly what you're going to do before you do it." The command center fell silent as everyone turned to look at the humans. "Explain," ordered Taiho. Jiwoo stepped forward and pointed to the tactical display. "Your ships always move according to the same patterns. Your responses are logical and consistent, and therefore predictable. The Harbingers have studied you. They know your playbook." The Confederation commanders looked at each other with uncertainty. "What would you suggest?" Taiho finally asked. "Let us help," said Jiwoo. "Give us a small team and a few ships." "Impossible," said the head commander. "You have no combat experience in space." "We have something better," Jiwoo argued. "We're unpredictable." After heated debate, Taiho used his authority to grant Jiwoo's request. The humans were given command of 5 small, fast ships and volunteer crews willing to try this unusual approach. "This is madness," muttered one of the Confederation officers as Jiwoo explained her plan. "Maybe," she agreed with a smile. "But sometimes madness is exactly what you need." Jiwoo and Do-hyun took command of the lead ship, while the other humans distributed themselves among the remaining vessels. They jumped to the Rigel colony, where the heaviest fighting was underway. "Split into 2 groups," Jiwoo ordered over the comm system. "Group 1, follow me. Group 2, wait 30 seconds. Then take a wide arc and hit them from behind." The ships moved out. Instead of the tight, orderly formation used by Confederation forces, the human-led ships flew in an erratic pattern, constantly changing speed and direction. "They're adjusting to target us," Do-hyun reported, watching the enemy movements. "Good," said Jiwoo. "Now for the unexpected, all ships go dark." Their ships cut power to all non-essential systems, drifting forward on momentum alone. The Harbinger vessels, suddenly unable to track them properly, began firing at their last known positions. "Now!" Jiwoo commanded. All 5 ships powered up, simultaneously in new positions and opened fire from unexpected angles. 2 Harbinger ships exploded. The others, momentarily confused by the unpredictable attack, broke formation. "See that?" Jiwoo said to the Confederation officers watching from her ship. They don't know how to respond when they can't predict your next move. The battle continued. For hours. When the human-led ships ran low on weapons, they rammed debris toward enemy vessels. When communications were jammed, each captain made independent decisions rather than waiting for orders. When the Harbingers adapted to one tactic, the humans switched to another with no apparent pattern. By the time reinforcements arrived, the human squadron had destroyed 7 Harbinger ships and forced the others to retreat. Back at Unity Station, the Confederation Council called an emergency meeting. Jiwoo stood before them, still wearing her battle-stained uniform. "Your tactics violated every principle of organized space combat," said the head counselor. "Yes," Jiwoo agreed. "That's why they worked. You disobeyed direct orders to maintain formation," another counselor added. "We improvise based on the situation," Jiwoo corrected. "That's what humans do." Admiral Taiho stepped forward. "The fact remains that while our forces suffered heavy losses following standard protocols, the human-led squadron achieved victory with minimal casualties." "A lucky anomaly," dismissed one counselor. "Or," suggested Taiho, "a valuable new approach. The Harbingers have studied our patterns and can predict our every move, but they cannot predict what they don't understand, and they don't understand humans." The council chamber filled with murmured conversations. Finally, the head counselor raised a hand for silence. "Captain Jiwoo, we believe your unpredictability may be useful in this crisis. The council will consider your methods." As they left the chamber, Do-hyun turned to Jiwoo. "They still don't really understand, do they?" "No," she replied, "but they're starting to see the value in being unpredictable, and that's a start." The council chamber buzzed with angry voices. Councillor Jinky pounded his fist on the table, causing the holographic displays to flicker. "The humans violated every established protocol of engagement," he shouted. "They endangered our ships and personnel with their chaotic maneuvers." Jiwoo stood calmly in the center of the chamber, facing the 7 members of the Confederation. Council. Behind her, Do-hyun and the rest of the human team watched silently. "With respect, Councillor," Jiwoo replied, "those chaotic maneuvers saved the Rigel colony and destroyed 7 Harbinger vessels." "A fortunate accident," Jinky insisted. The silver ship descended through Earth's atmosphere on a clear autumn morning. It moved without sound, its metallic surface reflecting the sunlight as it settled onto an empty field outside Seoul. People gathered at the edges of the security perimeter, their phones raised to capture humanity's first contact with alien life. Admiral Taiho stood at the ship's control panel, his grey skin contrasting with the bright blue uniform that marked him as the mission commander. He reviewed the final reports from his team before the door would open. "The humans have reacted exactly as predicted so far," said Science Officer Minji, looking up from her data screen. "They've established a security zone, but have not attempted any hostile actions." Taiho nodded. "The Confederation's behavioral models are rarely wrong. We expect either defensive aggression or immediate deference. Prepare the appropriate response protocols for either scenario." But as the ship's door slid open and the alien delegation took their first steps onto Earth soil, they faced something their models hadn't accounted for. Captain Jiwoo Kim waited at the front of the human welcoming committee. She was shorter than the aliens had expected, with calm eyes that studied them with interest rather than fear. When Admiral Taiho raised his 6-fingered hand in the formal greeting of the Confederation, Jiwoo surprised him by smiling and extending her hand in the human custom of a handshake. "On behalf of Earth, I welcome you to our world," she said simply. The translator device on Taiho's collar processed her words, but he hesitated before reaching out. This wasn't in the protocol. The humans should either be pointing weapons or bowing in submission. This casual greeting suggested neither. "Is there a problem?" Jiwoo asked, her hand still extended. "No," Taiho replied, finally accepting the handshake. "Your response is what unexpected." Later that evening, the human delegation hosted a dinner for the visitors. The aliens sat awkwardly at tables set up in a government building, watching as humans served food and engaged in something called small talk. "You must be tired after your journey," said Jiwoo, sitting across from Taiho. "How long did it take you to reach Earth?" 3 of your Earth months," Taiho answered. carefully picking up a pair of chopsticks. "Though we spent much longer studying your species before deciding to make contact." "And what did you learn about us?" Jiwoo asked, helping him position the chopsticks correctly in his fingers. Taiho paused. "We learned that humans are a puzzling species. You wage war against yourselves, yet create beautiful art. You understand complex science, but still hold on to ancient superstitions. Your behavior patterns should be predictable, yet they often are not." Jiwoo smiled. "That sounds about right." At the other end of the table, Science Officer Minji was speaking with Do-hyun Park, Jiwoo's second-in-command. "Your species operates on emotion as much as logic," Minji observed. "This makes your responses difficult to model." Do-hyun shrugged. "We call it being human. Sometimes we don't even know what we'll do until we do it." This concept troubled Minji deeply. In Confederation, society actions were calculated, outcomes were predicted, and surprises were rare. The idea of acting without a clear algorithm seemed dangerous. As the dinner continued, Taiho noticed something else unexpected. The humans were asking questions, genuinely curious questions, about Confederation culture, biology, and technology. They weren't afraid or submissive, they were interested. "Admiral," Jiwoo said as the evening was ending, "tomorrow we would like to show you some of our world. Would you be interested in seeing our cities, our art, perhaps some of our natural wonders?" "This is not the standard first contact protocol," Taiho replied. "What is your standard protocol?" Jiwoo asked. "Typically, we would begin formal negotiations for Earth's place within the Confederation hierarchy." Jiwoo considered this. "There will be time for formal talks. But first, wouldn't you like to know who you're talking with, to understand us better?" Taiho looked around at his team, who seemed equally confused by this approach. "Your suggestion is unpredictable, but perhaps valuable. We accept." Later, back on their ship, Taiho called his team together. "The humans are not following any of our behavioral models," he said. "Their response is neither aggressive nor submissive. They appear to be treating this as a cultural exchange." "Is this a trick?" asked one of his officers. "I don't believe so," Taiho replied. "I believe it's simply how they are. The humans seem to operate outside our prediction matrices." He looked out the viewport at the twinkling lights of Seoul. "Perhaps unpredictability is their defining trait, and perhaps that makes them more interesting than we anticipated." 3 weeks after first contact, Jiwoo and 5 other humans boarded the Confederation transport ship. They watched through viewing windows as Earth grew smaller behind them, until it was just a blue dot among countless stars. "It's beautiful," whispered Sunho, the team's physicist, pressing his hand against the cold glass. "Focus," Jiwoo reminded him gently. "We're not tourists. We represent all of humanity now." The journey to the Confederation's central station took 7 days. When they arrived, the humans stared in wonder at the massive structure, a spinning wheel in space with 7 spokes, one for each member species of the Confederation. Admiral Taiho met them at the docking bay. "Welcome to Unity Station," he said. "Your quarters are in the neutral sector. Tomorrow the assessment begins." "Assessment?" asked Jiwoo. "I thought we were here for diplomatic talks." "All potential member species must be assessed for compatibility," Taiho explained. "It is standard procedure." The next morning, the humans were separated and taken to different testing chambers. Jiwoo found herself in a plain white room with a table and 2 chairs. Science Officer Minji sat across from her. "This is a simple decision analysis," Minji explained, placing a device that looked like a small game board between them. "I will. Present scenarios and you will make choices." The first scenario seemed straightforward, a resource allocation problem with a clear mathematical solution. Jiwoo solved it easily. "Very good," said Minji, making notes. "Now, let's add a variable." The next scenario was similar, but included a factor that made the mathematical solution harm one group to benefit another. Jiwoo chose a less efficient solution that caused less harm. "Interesting," Minji said. "You chose emotion over efficiency." "I chose ethics over numbers," Jiwoo corrected her. By the 3rd day, Jiwoo realized these weren't just diplomatic exercises. The Confederation was studying how humans thought. During lunch, she found Do-hyun looking troubled. They're mapping our decision patterns, he whispered. Every species in the Confederation thinks in predictable ways. They want to see if we fit their models. And if we don't? Jiwoo asked. Do-hyun shrugged. I don't know, but I noticed they seem confused by my answers. That evening, Jiwoo gathered her team in their quarters. They're testing our predictability, she told them. Each species in the Confederation has a logical pattern to their thinking. They're trying to find ours. But humans often don't follow logical patterns, said Yunha, their cultural specialist. We use intuition, emotion, cultural context. Exactly, said Jiwoo. And I think that's bothering them. Tomorrow, let's show them just how unpredictable humans can be within reason. The next day, when presented with a resource distribution problem, Jiwoo asked about the people affected, rather than just looking at the numbers. When given a strategic game similar to chess, Do-hyun made moves that weren't optimal, but forced his opponent to adapt. When asked to choose between two diplomatic approaches, Yunha suggested combining elements of both. By the end of the week, the Confederation assessment team seemed frustrated. Your responses lack consistency, Minji told Jiwoo during their final session. Sometimes you choose logic, sometimes emotion, sometimes efficiency, sometimes harmony. We cannot map your decision matrix. That's because we don't have just one, Jiwoo explained. Humans adapt our thinking to each situation. We call it flexibility. That evening, Jiwoo was summoned to meet with the Confederation Council, 7 representatives, 1 from each member species. They sat in a semicircle with Admiral Taeho standing to the side. Captain Jiwoo, began the central figure, your species presents us with a challenge. For the first time, our assessment has failed to categorize a sentient species. Decision patterns. Is that a problem? Jiwoo asked. It is unusual, the counselor replied. Predictability allows for harmony in the Confederation. Your unpredictability could be disruptive. Or it could be valuable, Jiwoo suggested. Different perspectives lead to innovation. New solutions come from new ways of thinking. The counselors looked at each other, communicating in ways Jiwoo couldn't understand. Finally, the central figure spoke again. We will continue to study human decision-making. For now, you may remain as observers, but not full members of the Confederation. Later, Taeho found Jiwoo looking out at the stars from an observation deck. The council fears what they cannot predict, he said, standing beside her. That's a very human trait, Jiwoo replied with a small smile. Fear of the unknown. Perhaps we are not so different after all, Taeho said. Though I must admit, I find your species' unpredictability strangely fascinating. Good, said Jiwoo, because something tells me the Confederation might need some unpredictable thinking soon. She didn't know how right she was. The alarm sounded while Jiwoo was observing.